All right, welcome back to the Avoiding Average podcast. My name is Susan Gates, and today I have Amelie Naegelen, and she is a hypnotherapist based in LA. She previously worked in the jewelry industry in marketing, and after about 20 years, decided that she wanted to completely shift life paths and move into hypnotherapy. So, Amelie, thank you so much for being here with me today.
Hey, Suzanne, thank you for having me. I'm so excited and, looking forward to our conversation.
Yes, likewise, likewise. I would love for you to talk a little bit about what life was like before you had discovered hypnotherapy and what average looked like for you growing up.
Yeah, sure. I think I would call my first professional career as pretty classic. So I'm 44, French, living in LA with my three kids, my French husband, and we also have a golden retriever, which is important to notice. So yeah, after, I went to a business school, followed like a pretty classic track. And I had the opportunity to start with a very famous name in terms of luxury jewelry brand, I would say house. And it was, amazing at the beginning of career to work in this beautiful environment, like high paced, very inspiring people, a strong methodology, worldwide in terms of, travels, experiences, opportunities. But I never really had the opportunity to question when I was younger what I really wanted, what I really liked, what was my drive. And I believe some people have that. I believe some people, were like driving dying to become like doctors or a passion or anything like that. I never had that. So I kind of, followed the kind of classic pathway. I loved my job. And once again, I had the chance to work with amazing people, live abroad. We moved to Hong Kong for my career from France. And but after like a few years, I started to become like, I don't know, something was missing. I needed more fulfillment. Like I believe, lacking some purpose. And I love people and I love working with people and I love like the human contact. And I believe also I started to realize that there was a lot of emotional things, like, I don't know, signs that I couldn't feel. I wasn't able to really understand or translate. And so I become also a mom. My priorities shifted. You have this struggle as a woman, like, between like a very high paced working career or, and I didn't want to be a stay home mom, like, but I wanted to also have some flexibility. And then I discovered hypnosis for myself, like to help me really understand my emotional behavior, how I struggled with some blocks. I started to struggle with confidence, some fears, and I didn't know how to deal with that. And then a few people were like, you should try hypnosis because it's a very safe and gentle way to help with many issues. And then I started to use it for myself. And it was really like opening a door to this whole new world of possibilities. Like I found a way to remove some locks, to feel better driven, like to become reconnected to a purpose, to really being able to identify what I wanted to do, how I could do it, like, remove the fear, the blocks, understanding how emotions were working, in a much better way. And so step by step, I then, decided to really transition and do a major switch and become a hypnotherapist myself so that I could, help. It was my turn to help people do the same way and not live as if they were controlled by their mind, but helping people to actually regain that control on their life.
Yeah, I love that. And that's such a shift from what you were doing before to going into hypnotherapy. And so What was that transition like for you? Was it a rather quick transition that you knew you wanted to do this immediately, or did that take some time?
No, it took some time. I think it happened in different stages. And I think motherhood clearly was a big step. And me turning 40 a few years ago, I think was also a turning point in my life. Uh, as if I don't know, as if it was the right time to push on the reset
Yeah.
switch button, and it was like I don't know. I felt ready. I think it's a process to do such a transition. It didn't happen over time for sure. And also, as I was mentioning before, it's always like being able to deal with, the fears of, is it too late? Am I able to do that? What about like, did I waste too much time? Like, did I waste money on my studies or whatever? It's all those thoughts that we have, which are actually kind of normal because it's our mind trying to protect us.
Hmm.
And it's about learning how to deal with all those thought patterns and walk through the fear so that, I found, yeah, I felt ready to really do the big jump, assertiveness and serenity, calm, and confidence, of course.
Yeah, yeah. I imagine that was a challenge, especially if you've been in a career for that long and then going to something that different, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's about, shifting your programming, I think. It's about at one point and I'm sure we'll have the opportunity to talk more about it, but the subconscious mind is really how we are programmed. It's the iOS of our mind. And it's about first of all learning that we have the ability and the power to reprogram that.
Hmm.
And once we're on a specific track in our life, it's not for life.
Yeah.
So you're talking about average. Average is your drive guide on your podcast, and I love
Hmm.
that team because it's about finding. I think we all have the mission in our life to find a purpose at one point and finding how we will get to that.
Yeah. Yeah. I totally agree. And I personally do love hypnotherapy as a method for getting to that and or really getting past what's keeping us held back.
Exactly.
So, can you talk a little bit more about what hypnotherapy is and what it isn't? I think there
Yeah.
are some misconceptions out there about what hypnotherapy
Yeah,
is.
exactly. There are so many, and I'm glad we have the opportunity to debunk a little bit all those myths. So first of all, I think it's important to remind everybody that hypnosis is an ancient practice, and it's been here since ancient Greek with the sleep temples. And more recently, of course, it was brought back in the 19th century by this Scottish surgeon called James Braid, who gave it the name hypnosis to that approach of this trance state, half sleep, half awake. And then, of course, during the 20th century, it became pretty famous thanks to the psychologist and psychiatrist Milton Erickson, who really installed that practice into nowadays medicine, therapeutic approach. So, what is hypnosis? Hypnosis is for me the fitness or gym could be to the body as a
Hmm.
hypnotherapist. So it's a state of deep focus and attention, creating a very relaxed, calm state to open an access to the subconscious mind. And through that access to the subconscious mind, we are able to bypass what we call the conscious mind, which is our logic, decision making, willpower, reasoning. And accessing the subconscious mind is really accessing our programming. And this programming is basically what we build between since we're born until we're about 8 to 9. And it's all the life experiences, associations, education, family, everything that we experience, that we live, we build association to that, creating that programming with positive associations, negative associations, or neutral associations, but then creating all the automatic responses that we now have today, some habits that we might have considered as good in the past, but now that we want to get rid of, some automatic response to situations triggering fear, panic, anxiety, all those unwanted behaviors that we want to get rid of. So hypnosis is a very gentle and natural approach. It's basically a state that we experience every day without actually calling it a hypnotic state. But basically, every morning after you wake up, every evening before you go to sleep, or even like, diving into a novel or watching a movie,
Mhm.
uh, you know, allowing yourself to feel, cry, to laugh, to be scared, but consciously, you know that this movie is not real. Like it's,
Mm.
actors on the stage with special effects and everything. So I think it's a great example to see how we can allow our mind to take in information and make them kind of real to be able to change our experience.
Yeah.
So this is an introduction to hypnosis. What I wanted to add also is in terms of debunking the myth. So it's not sleep. You're not fully awake. You're in that kind of in-between state.
Mhm.
You are aware. It's not something you're not under the control of somebody else. It's about letting yourself let go, reach that very calm, relaxing state. And you won't say anything that you don't want to say. You just have to be able to be guided.
Mhm.
So I believe there is also a relation of trust, which is
Yeah.
important with the therapist that you're gonna pick. And you won't reveal secrets. You cannot, you know, remain stuck in hypnosis. You can actually open your eyes and get back to a fully alert, awake state whenever you want.
Okay. Yeah, I think that that's a good point to make because I do feel like a lot of people they have that image of like the stage hypnotherapy or hypnosis or
Yes,
hypnotist, I should say.
exactly. And it's true that stage hypnosis has been harmful towards hypnotherapy for a long time. And stage hypnosis does exist. I mean,
Mhm.
it's addressing people and like people who are volunteering and
Mhm.
addressing people with a very high suggestibility. But hypnotherapy is therapeutic.
Mhm.
It's private, and it's also, of course, deeply focused on one individual person and its deep transformation.
Yeah. Yeah. I recall just some of the experiences that I had, and I had actually done a hypnotherapy certification as well. And so it's I I really enjoyed learning about it. I think the science behind, how the mind works and how hypnotherapy can really kind of help bring in those aspects of like neuroplasticity, right? And
Exactly.
so could you explain a little bit more about like how the brain works in that way and maybe even what neuroplasticity is for some people who may not have ever heard of it?
Yeah, of course. It's I think the image of the iceberg is pretty self-explanatory. So we have the tip of the iceberg, which is our conscious mind, with which we resonate with logic, decision making, willpower. And then the big submerged part of the iceberg is actually our conscious mind. Um, what we're all born with in terms of primitive reactions are the fear, flight, freeze. automatic reactions. So the cavemen had their mind cabled this way so that they could go hunting, facing some threats or danger or predator, about to attack them, or they were risking their life. And so they had this automatic connections to either like freeze in front of a threat, flight, so that could escape or fight. And now in our modern societies, we're not facing the same kind of dangers anymore on our daily life, but we still have those connections in our mind. And so sometimes our mind trying to protect us with these automatic reactions is not adapted to the situation. So, for example, fear of flying. Many clients, experiencing the fear of flying. And what's happening is that they build up a reaction that is really not in line with the experience that they're living. And so it's about accessing the subconscious mind and being able to desensitize the reaction so that the people could feel safe again, could, go back to a calmer state with specific tools, with specific anchors, whether it's like a wording, gesture, or we can anchor that, desire state to, I don't know, sipping water, for example. So then it's a case by case scenario, but it's really about retraining the mind to normal reactions so that we can all live the life we want without feeling stuck with something. And it's this power of our mind and how helpful hypnosis can be is really like enabling us to really like break free from those patterns, the bad habits, like even like biting nails, which for some people was something comforting, but became something really like, I don't know, painful, then turning your fingers ugly or whatever. Of course, for the cigarettes and now the vaping, it works a lot. Sleeping issues also, any fears, phobias, and also, I have a lot of clients who come to me with for healthy eating habits,
Yeah.
like with sugar, cravings, chocolate, soda. It can be many things.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you for sharing all the different ways that it can be used. That was actually going to be one of my questions.
Okay, yeah.
But I'm actually curious for you, how has hypnotherapy helped you personally through your own journey?
I think it was for my personal journey, it was really about being able to get over the fear of changing careers and doing something meaningful in order to help people on a daily basis. And I always felt like this strong connection, with people, like helping others. But I think I never thought I could make a, living out of that. And in terms of legitimacy and so when you're lacking starting something from scratch, it's also pretty hard to get the confidence that you need
Mhm.
to start something new, to go through the fear.
Yeah.
And hypnosis, and now I use also self-hypnosis like almost on a daily basis whenever I have a struggle with not daring to do something or feeling uncomfortable, I don't know, having a hard conversation or with a specific goal in mind. It's
Yeah. So you brought up something interesting too, the concept of self-hypnosis. And I don't know that a lot of people have necessarily heard about that.
Yeah,
So could you
I'm not sure.
describe that a little bit more and what that actually entails?
Yeah, sure. I think it's important to notify the difference between hypnosis and meditation
Okay. Yeah, that'd be great to.
because it's also a question that I get often. And it's true that hypnosis can be similar as meditation sometimes because it also affects the brain waves level that we have in our mind.
Mhm.
But in meditation, the goal is really to clear the mind, to be very present, to be able to observe our thoughts without any judgment. But hypnosis itself has a specific goal in terms of giving direct suggestion to the subconscious mind and reprogram a pattern, shift a behavior, or change a belief. And once we precise that, self-hypnosis is actually this practice that that you can apply to your daily life. It's very efficient and very quick. So you need about 5-7 minutes. The more you practice, of course, the more familiar you become to it, and the easier it becomes. It's about entering that state of deep focus, relaxation, and calm with specific trigger words that you would have associated before in for different topics, and then do some short induction techniques in your mind with specific gesture with a specific goal. Yeah, so it's something that you can learn pretty easily. And once again, like everything new that we start practicing, getting out of our comfort zone, of course, getting into action is essential because we know how hard it is to incorporate a new habit in our life. So it's about, getting into action, and it's about practicing and repeating, because we talked about that neuroplasticity, which is actually a fabulous way that science confirmed that we are not stuck like who we are, but we have this ability and power to reprogram the mind so that we can change our behaviors, our habits, our thought patterns.
So yeah, the concept of neuroplasticity and the brain basically being able to rewire itself, right, after
Exactly.
repetition. How long does it usually take to see results from hypnotherapy?
It really depends on the issue and the person, because yes, everyone can be hypnotized. This is another question that I often get. As long as you are able to focus and to let yourself be guided by somebody else, then you can be hypnotized. Then the deepness of that hypnotic state varies from one to another.
Mhm.
And so it's also important to really get an experienced practitioner and therapist, because what I'm doing is I'm running some tests with every new client to measure the level of suggestibility
Mhm.
of each of my clients,
Mhm.
which is basically the way our brain listens, learns, takes in information.
Mhm.
And so, based on that, I will adapt my language, my induction techniques, deepening techniques, and I will not expect the same reactions from one client to another,
Mhm.
depending on this suggestibility.
Mhm.
And so, how many sessions? First of all, it's a very short therapy, which
Okay.
is great. Usually between 1 to 6 or 8 sessions for quitting smoking. But, I would say for simple issues, simple issues, I don't know, like some habits, nail biting, or some fears of phobias. It can be, 3 sessions, but I had a client in one session, like she stopped right away to bite her nails, and
Oh, it's
and now
crazy.
it's gone, and it's been like more than 2 years. And yeah, it can go up to 4-6 sessions. What I'm doing is I'm having a free consultation with each client to discuss about the issue, their goals, how they want to feel. Like it's really about putting the right words and having the clients being pretty open and honest about this. And it's important to have a specific goal, because you cannot like come to a session with like just I want to feel better.
Yeah.
It's about I want to improve my sleep. I want to feel more confident before that specific meeting, or have the more precise, the more efficient it will be.
How do you help identify, like, if somebody doesn't quite know, like, what the issue is, or if there's something specific, they just know that they're not
This
feeling
is
good?
this is the work we do together over the
Okay.
phone.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Before the first session.
Perfect.
And then I record the sessions, and I recommend the clients to have a session every week or every 10 days and keep them pretty close during the process. Listen to some parts of the recording, especially in the morning and the evening when your mind is the most suggestible,
Mhm.
to really anchor the new patterns, behaviors, habits in your subconscious mind.
Okay. Yeah, I remember when I had started my certification program and I was doing some recordings for other people. I had some people tell me that they would fall asleep during it, like as they were listening to it before they went to bed or something. What would you
Yeah.
say to people who were concerned about that?
I would say when you listen to this part and the recording, for example, and then you fall asleep on it, that's fine. You already had your session. It's also during the session, it's part of my responsibility to measure the deepness of my client
Mm.
and to make sure he's not falling asleep and to bring him back a little bit, lighter
Yeah.
and then go back deeper. It's about balance of that hypnotic state.
Yeah, that's fair. What has it been like for you over the past few years since going into hypnotherapy, as far as, your own personal journey with being content in your career and maybe not having the same sort of lifestyle that you did prior working in the luxury jewelry industry? What has that
Yeah.
shift been like for you?
It's been very challenging at first because, I was full of fear and doubts and struggles because you change your entire lifestyle, freedom. Also, I started like lived on a financial insecurity at the beginning. So it can be, yeah, it can be pretty overwhelming,
Hmm.
but I really had that ability to reconnect to my purpose and why I was doing this,
Yeah.
and being driven with my desire of helping people, and also being fulfilled by the comments that I got from my clients, sending me messages like, uh, I took a plane today to travel from A to B, and it was fantastic, and I can't thank you enough. And this is why I'm doing this. And
Yeah.
so yeah, the struggles, the challenges, that they go away. Like, I know why I'm doing this. And also, like, personally speaking, I feel much more fulfilled, of course, anchored, balanced. And I'm also reminding myself, like, every day that, this practice is part of this holistic approach of the mind, body, spirit balance, and which are deeply connected. And how also I think I express this with my husband and as a mother, as a friend, with all my closed ones, trying to help each other, becoming more aware of the importance of that balance between the mind training, exercising, eating habits, and of course, sleep. And I think those for me became really my four life pillars. And of course, I'm not like we should never, I don't know, whatever, eat sugar or sleep too late or whatever.
Yeah.
It's about keeping that balance going, to be able to, feel better every day, share more joy, more love, and feeling more confident as well.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah. I think that is an important part of living a more balanced life is having those fears kind of in check, the things that maybe holding you back from really fully experiencing life and everything there is to offer. Too much of any one thing isn't a good thing. And none of it is also sometimes not unhealthy as well, because there's
Yeah.
usually like a fear around it too. And so,
And it's also being gentle with yourself first,
mhm,
like being patient, being gentle with yourself, the way you talk to yourself,
mhm,
and like doing what I do is like now I can't bear like having somebody like even the other day my son was like, oh, I'm stupid. And like this drive like it breaks my heart,
mhm,
like, having him talking to himself
mhm.
like this. And so now it's my, it's part of my job and mission to help as many people as I can to really reframe the way we are talking to ourselves, especially because the mind always listens. The mind always listens, and it really affects. We might feel it will not, but it does affect our behavior, reactions, level of confidence, and everything.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh gosh, I'm glad you brought that example up because I think a lot of people aren't aware of like the little things that they say to themselves throughout the day, but having, I guess, more of the training in, the brain
Yeah.
and how it works and everything like that, it really kind of drives that point home of being aware of those sort of things and helping others make adjustments that could potentially change the way they think about themselves going forward.
Yeah, exactly. Also, like hypnosis is a great way to really anchor the new way of, for example, speaking to yourself
Hmm. Yeah.
subconsciously. And another, talking about the mind and, reprogramming some habits and patterns, talking in the present tense
Mm,
is also essential because when you say, I don't know, I'm strong, I am confident, I am doing this versus I will do this, I will be better. Um, the mind understands the present tense.
yeah.
When you speak to using future tense, for the mind, it's not real. It might happen or not, but it's not real. So this is also another maybe or tool
Mhm.
uh, that I'm happy to share so that people can hopefully remind themselves about positive self-talk
Yeah.
using present tense.
Yeah. That's a good reminder. I think it's very easy to get wrapped up in the future potential, but if you start to think about it in the present, then that already kind of sets you down that trajectory, in my opinion. For anybody who wants to get in touch with you, work with you, how can they do that?
So I have a website called AmelieNaegelen.com, and then also I'm very present on Instagram. So it's Amelie underscore hypnotherapy. And people can also find me on LinkedIn.
Awesome. Well, I'll be sure to link those all in the show notes so everyone can access those easily. But Amelie, thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it. We worked through some technical challenges in getting this to work, so I'm grateful that we were able to make it work and you were able to join me today. So thank you so much.
Yeah, I'm happy I've been able to share everything, my knowledge about hypnosis, hypnotherapy, and hopefully, give hope to people who feel stuck, who have been feeling stuck for, too long, and who want to get rid of specific habits, behaviors, thought patterns, because we have this power and this ability to reframe, to reprogram. We can do it in the right way, in a safe way, using this very natural approach. So thank you for offering me that opportunity.
Well, thank you so much for being here today, and thank you to everyone who is listening.